G'day and welcome to Not the Farmer's Wife podcast. I'm CJ Steedman and I'm not the farmer's wife, I'm the farmer. I'm also a mum to MJ and OJ and a full-time off-farm worker. And like most farmers, I'm able to farm with the help of my family and my partner, who I call the handy helper. On Mojo Homestead, we grow chickens, goats, cows and bees, and we do it using regenerative agriculture and holistic management practices. If, like me, you love all things farming and homesteading, then we'd love to have you along for the ride. So let's get farming. G'day everyone. God, I've lost my ability to speak already. G'day everyone and welcome to another episode of Not the Farmer's Wife. CJ here on her own. The handy helper is off at work and I have almost run out of time to record, so I'm crazily recording. Episode 102 this week, and we are still on our egg-laying chicken spree, is the best way of putting it. I really do need to learn how to speak again, don't I? So this week we are talking about the top chicken breeds for egg layers. And I want to say right at the get-go that if I don't mention a chicken breed that you particularly love for laying eggs, don't stress. This is just a generic list of the ones that are most common and most utilised for egg laying. That being said, one of the chickens that we're currently trying to breed up is not even on the list. It didn't make the list, which is the Brahmas. The Brahmas are a really big bird. They almost look like a wedge-tailed eagle walking across the ground. They've got leg feathers and all that kind of thing, but they're huge. They're huge birds. And we've just started breeding them. We got gifted 2 roosters late last year. And then earlier this year, I found a gentleman in Yass, which is not far from where I live, and he had hens that had hatched out, and he had confirmed that these were hens, and we went along and bought 10 of them. So we've got those 10 girls who would be just about ready to lay. I'm pretty sure they're close to that point of lay right now. They were a bit young when we first got them, but they're in with the roosters. And I'm really hoping that we're going to get some great eggs out of them, but we're also hopefully going to get some broody hens out of them. Brahmas evidently go broody fairly readily. And like some chickens, there's some strange genetics that happens with chickens. And it's something that I want to delve into a bit more and get a bit more experience with. But some chickens throw predominantly hens or roosters or particular colours or particular types of birds. And that's really evident in sex-linked chickens, which are your ISA Browns. But supposedly Brahmas, certain roosters can have a propensity to throw only hens. So they will, every egg they fertilise will be a hen, which would be awesome on the greater scheme of heritage bird breeding. That would be amazing. So I could do a bit more research about that, but I might even do an episode down the track when I've done some more research. I need to know more about it. And that's only going by, the local breeders that we've spoken to. But this week we are talking about top chicken breeds for egg laying. And as we said last week when the handy helper was on with me, over the last couple of months, there's been another issue again with people not being able to get eggs in the supermarkets. And I did notice something the other day that somebody posted and said, IGA have still got heaps of eggs. It's Woolies and Coles that don't have them. People are starting to get smart to the supermarkets and what their little ploys are. Costco have in their, I think they're not caged, but they're barn laid eggs. They have trays of 30 eggs and you're only allowed to buy 1 at the moment. So there's obviously some issues with supply. Now, I know that there has been bird flu in the States, in the US, and certainly we've had some bird flu issues here in the last couple of months as well. So I don't know whether that's what's causing the problem or whether it is distribution supply chain issues, which we've also had a few issues with that in the last 6 months. But watch this space. I mean, I say it all the time, the best way to get around that kind of issue is to have your own chickens in your own backyard. So if you're at all thinking about having chickens in your backyard, I think now's probably the time to go ahead and do that. So I've got a little list here because lately, my brain is like a sieve, and if I don't write it down, it doesn't happen. So what we're going to do is we're going to just go through and talk about the kinds of things that you need to think about when looking at a chicken breed for the purposes of egg laying. Then we'll go through some breeds, and then I've worked out the best of certain features or traits, if you want to call them that. But when it comes to breed selection, you have to think about your own individual circumstances. The breed that might be right for me here in the southeast corner of Australia where we have incredibly hot summers like we have today. Today is 30 something degrees and stinking hot. We haven't had rain. We had a thunderstorm the other day, a hailstorm all over my car, but we haven't had a lot of rain lately. We're very dry. It's very hot. Coming into winter, we will have frosts. We will have cold, cold frosts. We don't get snow. We occasionally get snow once in a blue moon, but it never lasts. But we get these rock hard frosts that last until 10, 11 o'clock in the day. And so we have to factor that in when we're looking at what chickens we're going to have. Now, for you, if you live in tropical Queensland, obviously that's not a consideration for you at all. You don't need to worry about frost. You don't need to worry about any of that. You need to worry about them being able to cope with humid heat, which can be pretty debilitating. Having lived in the Pacific Island countries on and off for a couple of years, both with work and, well, all with work. I've lived in Papua New Guinea, Tonga. I've also visited the Solomon Islands. I've also visited East Timor. So, yeah, being in those countries, this humidity can really knock you around. And if that's the case, well, you need to factor that in. If you live in a snowy environment, like our friends in northern USA, so Montana, Missouri, I want to say, all up the top there, along the border of Canada and the US, or you're in Canada where it really snows. Like, I don't think there's anywhere where it isn't covered in snow. Then you have to factor that in too. So what kinds of things are you looking for? Well, first of all, look for egg production. How many eggs do you need? If you only need a couple of eggs a week, if you don't want to go overboard, well, then you can kind of take your pick on what suits best in the other aspects. But if you really need a good egg producer, then you have to factor that in. Temperament. Are they easy to handle? Are you confident in handling birds and chickens? I said last week I actually had a bit of a bird phobia growing up. So, it took me a little while to get used to handling them again. If I'd had an aggressive or really hard to handle breed of chicken, that probably would have made it harder again. But if you are very confident in handling birds and you have no problems with that, then again, that temperament issue may not be any kind of worry for you. But also think about, as far as temperament, have you got children? Do you have pets around the chickens that you don't want an aggressive bird having a go at a dog, because then the dog might be tempted to have a go back, and you don't want to start that kind of war amongst pets. But for kids, do you want chickens that are not going to be aggressive towards kids, that kids are going to be able to pick up and hug, and the chicken's not going to be all flighty and not want that? Climate susceptibility, we've already discussed. If you live in an environment where it's 2 foot of snow, a month into autumn, you need to factor that in. Likewise, if you live in the subtropics, well, you need to work out what chicken's going to be best for you and what ones are going to suit. If you've got a heavily feathered, heavy set bird, they're probably not going to handle the heat as well. Space needs. Are you on a large acreage? Are you on a small acreage? Are you in an urban backyard? Factor that in as well. And I did discuss it, I think last week we talked about bantams, or it might be, I'm in the middle of writing book number 2, which is the step-by-step guide to raising chickens for eggs. And I think I've just discussed in there about bantams. If you have a really, really small environment and you only need a couple of eggs a week off your chickens, then I would consider bantams. They take up so much less space, so much less food. They are no good as a dual purpose bird. You will nowhere near get enough meat off them if you needed to use them as that. But if it's just purely for egg production, and so long as you don't have a super boggy, muddy, cannot ever dry out kind of area for them to coop in, then you'll be fine with the bantam. That would be more than enough. So space needs we've covered. Like if you've got, again, if you're like us and you have acreage and you have plenty of space, well, get a foraging kind of bird. Get a bird that likes to roam free, that you can net in with a larger fencing, like mobile fencing situation like what we have. But then there's other special features too. We got our Araucans purely because I wanted blue eggs. That was the only reason. It was no other reason. We didn't pick that breed for any specific purpose other than I wanted blue eggs. I want to get copper Morans because I want the chocolate coloured eggs. Again, it's purely based on the egg colour, nothing else. The Brahmins, I was expecting them to have huge eggs, and then after doing some research, I found out they actually lay a medium-sized egg, not a huge egg. But at the end of the day, I just wanted birds that lay eggs because we have customers that want to buy eggs. Now, Australorps are a good choice for that as well. We'll go into all that after. But if there's a particular type of bird that you want, then go with that. You know, if you want your typical fat henny penny that you can use as a dual purpose, well, go ahead and do that. But colourful eggs, dual purpose birds, they're the kinds of things you need to be thinking about. But which ones are the best ones for beginners? And that depends. Depends. How long is a piece of string? So I'm going to run through some breeds now and see which one kind of resonates with you. And if there's one there that you haven't heard of, then go and do some looking up and see, because I'm terrible at describing what they look like. For those that are watching on YouTube, I will try and overlay some pictures of the birds so that you can see them. No promises, because I'm still learning this technology thing. So the first cab off the rank is the ISA Brown. Have to make a mention of it. Sex-linked chicken bred purely to be a hen who lays copious amounts of eggs. They are small birds. They're not much good for dual purpose. They don't have enough meat on them. They have a shortened lifespan, which is the only thing I find a bit sad about them. They don't live very long and they don't lay very long. So you probably get 18 months of laying out of them, 12 to 18 months, and then they'll start dwindling on their laying. And we've had a couple that have just up and died, and we can't actually work out what went wrong. But my understanding is their lifespan is around that 3 to 4 year mark anyway. So they don't really last much beyond that. They do lay in excess of 300 eggs per year. So that's factoring in the molt as well, making them one of the best layers. And they are the ones that are used by commercial egg laying production places. They are friendly. They are easy to handle. I absolutely agree with that. They are so easy to pick up and carry around. They don't run. They're not flighty. Some of them don't like being picked up, but they certainly aren't aggressive, and they're not so flighty that you can't catch them. We can catch them reasonably easy. They're very low maintenance. They don't seem to be very susceptible to parasites. We certainly haven't had huge lice issues with them. We had a little bit of a lice issue at one point, but we had a lice issue with everybody at that point. It was during the wet, cold, coming into the hot season of spring. So, and worms they weren't bad with worms either compared to other chickens that I've had. They get a little bit wormy occasionally, but once they're treated, they seem to come good really quick. So they're probably the most common out of the egg-laying ones in Australia, and they're relatively easy to get from either backyard breeders or from hatcheries, proper hatcheries. So number 2 on the list is actually one of my favourites, the Australorp, and if I could afford to have an entire flock of Australorps, I probably would. They are a black Australian bred bird. They were designed in Australia, hence why they're Australorp. They hold the record for laying the most eggs in a year. An Australorp laid 364 eggs in the space of 12 months, which is just insane. That's like one day off, an egg a day. So, and that includes the molt period. They are very hardy when it comes to hot and cold climates, and that's what I like about them here. We have quite a few Australorps in our flock. We've probably got 8 or 9 of them, and they really cope well in the heat. They cope well in the freezing cold. That temperature change doesn't affect their egg laying, whereas with the ISA Browns in the extreme heat, they seem to back off a little. They are calm, docile, and beginner friendly, and that is absolutely true too. We don't have a problem catching those girls. When we want to move our chicken tractor and our netting, they're always reasonably easy to catch. Normally, they would lay between 250 and 280 eggs a year. So that's a standard, so a little bit less than the ISA Browns at their 300, but still pretty good rate when you factor in that molt period in the middle of winter, when most chickens stop laying. So they're a really, really good choice as an all-rounder. They can also be used as dual purpose. They do grow pretty chunky, but you probably wouldn't because they lay so many eggs. You're probably better off just keeping them as an egg layer. The next one on the list is another one that I have bred and had, and that is the Rhode Island Red. Now, we had some Rhode Island Reds when we were on the small farm, and I love them. They're big fluffy things, big fluffy red things. They are great egg layers. They are 250 to 300 eggs a year, so they're probably just pipping the Australorps there, but not quite. They're not quite in the Isa Brown category. They're hardy, they're independent, very reliable as far as the egg laying. They can handle a smaller backyard environment as well as they can handle a small acreage or a larger pen area. And I think Rhode Island Reds used to be used as the predominant egg layers prior to sex link and ISA Brown chickens being developed. They can be a little bossy, and certainly we had a rooster who, he was gorgeous, but he could be a little demanding at times. He ended up passing away, and we think he actually had a heart attack because he just got so big. Because they're big birds. They're great dual purpose birds. They do have a lot of meat on them. They can be raised for the purposes of meat production. But again, I didn't have a problem with them. I don't think they're bossy towards people. They seem to be more bossy towards other chickens. So, but they're a good looking bird too. And they're relatively easy to get. The price range will change depending on the area that you are, but ISA Browns generally will be the cheapest ones. Australorps a little bit dearer. Rhode Red's a little bit dearer. Oh, excuse me. Oh. Any of the heritage breed ones are going to be a little bit dearer than the ISA Browns, and that's because they have a much bigger lifespan. So the next one on my list is the Plymouth Rock or Barred Rock. It's an American bred bird, and I love them. I don't think we've got any left. We haven't got any left, but we did have them. They're a black and white feathered bird, really pretty bird, but they're also very calm. Like I found them quite to be, though when I was still getting around my phobia of birds, they were quite a good bird. They lay around 200 to 280 eggs per year, depending on the season. Super friendly with kids, other animals, humans. They're great right across the board. So they're a really good bird for beginners. They're a dual purpose bird, so they are meat and eggs, and they do really well in a backyard environment. So if you are looking to have heritage birds and you want something that will cope with an urban backyard, then a Plymouth Rock is not a bad choice for that. But they also do okay free ranging. So they will certainly go out and forage. I found that our girls used to hover around me if I was in the garden. It was almost like they wanted me to turn plants over so that they could see if there was any grubs or bugs that they could get at under there. And like I say, they are a good egg layer, very, very reliable egg layer. Next on the list is a Sussex. Now, there's a Sussex and a Barred Sussex. The Sussex are generally just a white bird. Barred Sussex have a black ring around their neck of feathers. They are amazing cold weather birds. So if you are in a very snowy environment, if you're one of our friends up in the north of the USA, Sussex is a good option. They handle the cold really, really well. They lay between 220 and 260 eggs per year, which is a pretty good rate still. We wouldn't be knocking that back. They're very friendly and they're very curious. We've got a couple of Sussex in the yard at the moment. 2 of them refuse to live in the yard. They fly out all the time. I'm actually going to clip their wings this weekend and try and force them to stay in the yard for a little while because I am a little bit worried about foxes getting them. But they love to follow us around. And the other day I was walking out to the car and literally heard behind me and thought, what is that? Turn around and here's one of these Sussex chickens that we've got that won't stay in the yard running behind me. It thought I had food and it was running, but it was like a bloody emu galloping behind me. That's all I could hear. They are really, really good foragers. So they are the kind of bird that will do well with, like, on their pellets, but they will go and find other food. So they'll go and find the bugs and the grubs and the rodents and any kind of plants they can get their hands on. And they will keep your yard bug-free. So if that's something that you're interested in, having chickens around your veggie garden to really keep the pest control down from that perspective, they're a really good option for it as well. Leghorns. They are a white bird again. They lay a white egg, like a pure white egg, about 280 to 320 a year. Now, I have heard of Leghorns being used in commercial productions previously. I've not seen it, but I have heard of that. So that would kind of make sense given 320 eggs a year. That's pipping the ISA Browns. So that would be a really good option if you're hankering for as many eggs as possible. And if you, because some of my customers freak out about different coloured eggs, brown eggs, blue eggs, they kind of, I thought eggs were just white. If you predominantly want to sell white eggs, and, let's remove any kind of race issue there. Some people just like the idea of having white chicken eggs. Doesn't matter. The inside of the egg is exactly the same. But if that's what your customers like, man, fill the market. Do whatever you got to do. If the market is saying that's what they want, you just give the market what they want. So they look like the store-bought eggs. And that's because they used to be used as commercial egg layers. So if that's what you want, go for it. Very productive. Leghorns are awesome in a hot environment. They can handle the heat without a problem. They're not a big bird. They're a smaller kind of bird, but super heat tolerant. So if you are in far north Queensland, if you're in Florida or Southern California or Texas, and I believe Texas gets cold in winter, but if you're in Texas, down on the coastline there and in an area where it is stinking hot all the time, then this might be a really good choice for you. They are a little bit more independent. So I would say if you're in an urban backyard, maybe not. If you've got a little bit of acreage, even a small acreage, probably a really good choice again. They do prefer to free range. They don't necessarily like to be locked up. Now, Leghorns aren't the friendliest bird in the world. They can be a little flighty. They're not the kind of cuddly birds like the other ones that we've talked about. So if you don't mind an active chicken that just goes off and does its thing and just comes home overnight, that's the kind of chicken you're after, then a Leghorn would be a really good option for that. Then next one is, I've got a couple more to go through, and the next one is one of my favourites, and I refer to them as the henny pennies of the chicken world, and that's the Orpington. Now, you'll sometimes hear them referred to as a buff Orpington. The buff is just referring to the colour. So they have a lovely lavender colour. They have a lovely golden buff colour. They also come, I think, in black and it's like a black bluey sheen. But they're very, very pretty birds. They are the typical fat-bummed, waddling kind of hen that you picture. And they are an all-rounder kind of bird. They are a meat bird. They are an egg bird. They lay 200 to 250 eggs a year, and they're good-size eggs. Big, fluffy butts. They're very, very friendly. Great for beginners, great for kids, great around other animals. They're not aggressive in any way, shape, or form. If you're in a cold environment, you're in luck. The Orpingtons love a cold environment, and I think it's because they're so fluffy. I don't know whether they have that double feather thing happening, but they're really, really fluffy fat birds. So a colder climate doesn't hurt them because they've got all that extra layers on them. And as I said, they're perfect for families with kids. They love being handled. They're not at all shy. Now, we've got one that she snuck through the ranks when we bought the ISA Browns. We got one, and she was obviously a mixed breed. I had a batch of birds that I bought that were honestly, they were supposed to be ISA Browns. None of them were ISA Browns. They were just a mixed. I've got Sussex in there. I've got Wyandottes. I've got Orpington looking birds. And honestly, I think the hatchery just kind of went, she doesn't care as long as they're egg layers. We'll just give her all these. Anyway, the Orpington that we've got up there, she's a white and black Orpington, and she waddles around the yard. Her butt is twice the size of any of the ISA Browns, and she lays eggs regularly. She's not the most friendly of Orpingtons, so maybe she's crossed with something, but you can pick her up and everything. But if she'd been handled more and had not been in with 30 other chickens first growing with us, then she probably would have been a lot more friendly. But she's gorgeous. I call her Henny Penny because she's just such a big fat bummed thing. So the next one is another one of my favourites, which is the Wyandotte. And I always wonder whether I'm saying that right. Wyandotte. It's Wyandotte. I think it's Wyandotte. Now, another dual-purpose bird. Great one for homesteaders because they can be used for meat or for eggs. So if you have one that goes clucky and sits on eggs and you've got a rooster in there with them and you end up with fertile eggs being sat on, if you get some boys out of it, no biggie, grow them out, put them in the freezer. You'll get a really good-sized bird out of these ones. 200 to 250 eggs a year, so again, a really good quantity of eggs. They have some really beautiful feather patterns. They have this weird thing where they have a colour on the feather and then it's gold. They'll call it gold laced, but it's actually black around the edge of the feather. Not gold around the edge of the feather, but a gold feather with black around the edge of it. And I think what they're referring to is the black is the lace. So gold laced, as in the black around the edge. But you can get them in all different colours with that lacing around the edges. So whole bunch of different colours. Take your pick on those ones. Now, they are hardy in all climates, and that's why I liked them here because the cold weather didn't bother them, the hot weather didn't bother them. because they're a big fat fluffy thing as well, like the Orpingtons, they cope okay in the cold. But likewise in the heat, they just seem to go and sit in their little dust bath, fluff their wings up, and away they go with the heat. Now, they're a really good forager as well. So if you've got a little bit more space, probably not a bad option. If you are limited on space, maybe not so much. They are calm, but they can be independent. They can sometimes be a bit, no, I'm doing my own thing. I don't want you all over me. Now, we have talked about mixed flocks before. Some of these birds do better in mixed flocks than others, as in they won't sink to the bottom of the pecking order. I spoke about the Rhode Island Reds being a little bit aggressive and a little bit in your face, and they tend to want to rule the roost. The Wyandottes don't. They do okay in mixed flocks. They will sit middle tier on the pecking order, so they won't get walked over by birds, but at the same time they won't be aggressive to other birds. Some of those other birds do tend to get a bit walked over. You have to, if you're having a mixed flock, you just have to think about it, do a little bit of research on it. And I mean, each bird is different too. So that being said, you might say, well, I've got an Orpington who is very, very top of the pecking order, which, everybody go, huh, what? Okay. And then you might have a Rhode Island Red who is bottom of the pecking order, just based on that chicken's personality, even though normally they would sit at the top. So the last one, and like I said, this is not a complete list. So if your favourite bird wasn't mentioned, I apologise. But if your favourite bird wasn't mentioned, that's your favourite. It's okay to have your favourite. This one's one of my favourites, and that's your Easter eggers. Now, the Easter eggers, there's a bunch of different names, from Americanas, Aracanas. You've got ones like, well, the copper morans aren't Easter eggers technically because they lay a brown egg, but the Easter eggers refer to chickens that lay blue, green, believe it or not, sometimes a pinky coloured shell. So they refer to them as Easter eggers because it looks like Easter egg colours, Now, ours are Aracanas, and the Aracanas are very noticeable. They have little tufts of feathers around where their ear area is. We've got a couple that have got what we call top knots, which are just like a bunch of feathers up on the top that kind of hang forward over their head. And we really like this breed. They're a very personable breed. They lay between 200 and 250 eggs a year, so really good egg layers. And we currently have Agnes, who's the matriarch of the paddock, who is 7 years old. She'll be going on 8 years old this year. And 7 years, yeah, I'm pretty sure she's 8 this year. At the end of this year, she'll be 8. She still lays probably about 3 eggs a week at that age. So, and we've got ISA Browns that have stopped laying, and they're not even 2. So that just goes to show you, with the heritage breeds, they will continue to lay well past their use by date. But yeah, the shades of eggs can be blue, green, pink, or brown. So in the listing that I had, they were including copper morans in that, but some people don't include copper morans in that because it's not really technically Easter egg colours. They are friendly birds. They are fun birds. They have these beautiful little tufts, so they look really cute. Our ones that we have had, all of our really personality plus kind of chickens have all been Aracanas. So Agnes, goat chicken, who's currently sitting on eggs. She's gone clucky, so she's sitting again. Red Bull, we had one called Sienna, who was gorgeous. And goat chicken's sister, who we call Top Notch. They are all really personality plus chickens. Now, goat chicken's first clutch that she hatched out, there was a white girl in there that we called Cleo, as in Cleopatra. She had this beautiful black eyeliner that went up around the side of her head. And she's another one. She's got oodles of personality. So they have a very good personality, these chickens. And that makes them really good around kids and families because they will come and have a chat with you. Goat chicken will follow us around the yard, chippering away in our ears. We joke and say she's the union representative for all the chickens because she always seems to be bossing us and telling us something that we need to know. They can be a bit unpredictable in behaviour. So Red Bull was a little bit aggressive. If you ignored her, if you walked in the paddock and you didn't turn around, pat her, pick her up, talk to her, she would literally peck the back of your feet until you did. So they can be a little different. Also, too, their egg colours can change over time. So Agnes used to lay these beautiful pale blue eggs, like almost like a Tiffany blue kind of thing, egg. And we joke that over time the toner has started to run out, and now she lays, it's a weird almost khaki green colour. And that's just happened over the years. It's gone from that really pale, beautiful blue through to this weird khaki green colour. And that's what she lays now, and that's when we know that she's laying. But so the egg colours can change over time. And we just joke and say the toner's run out and we need to, we almost need to reboot the toner. So out of that list, which one is going to be best for you? I have compiled a little list and I'll post this in the show notes. But these are my top picks for different particular traits that you're after. Best for egg production, ISA Brown, Leghorn, and Australorp, in that order. So ISA Browns are very, very reliable. Leghorns, that they can be super layers, but you can also get them sometimes and they're not super layers. So your ISA Browns are much more reliable to be a super layer, but your Leghorn is still right up there on the numbers, and the chance of you having a dud is pretty rare. So ISA Brown, Leghorn, Australorp. Australorps are very, very reliable in their egg laying. And while they don't pip the Leghorns and the ISA Browns in numbers, their consistency puts them into that category. The next one is best for backyard family pets. So best for if you've got kids, you've got other pets, you want to be out in the backyard and you want chickens that aren't going to run away from you, and you want them to be tame and you want them to come up and be in your face and be involved with your backyard life. Orpingtons win it on that one. They are the henny pennies. They're definitely number one. Plymouth Rocks come in a very close second. They are very personable chickens and they're not at all scared of humans. I've never had one that ran from me. Like, it was always easy to pick up. And Sussex would be the next one on that. They're also, like I say, I've got 2 white ones that chase us up and down the backyard without a problem. They're right on our heels. Literally, when I go to get the feed out to feed chickens, they are in at the feed shed and I turn around and nearly tread on them. So they're my 3, Orpington, Plymouth Rock and Sussex, if you're looking for a family-friendly chicken. Now, if you're on a small acreage, or you have the ability to free range, so you have a lot more space and they're not going to be stuck in a coop all the time. My picks are in this order: Rhode Island Reds, great foragers, great layers, good for dual purpose, so good for meat as well. The Wyandottes come in next because they are, again, really good on that free ranging kind of stuff. And just Sussex, because again, they're just a lovely bird. Best for hot climates. So if you are in a tropical climate, my picks are Leghorns or Rhode Island Reds for that grouping. I'll put Rhode Island Red there, but yeah, it's Leghorn. I'm sure there was another one that I thought was just as good. Oh, the Wyandottes are okay in all climates. I was humming and hawing about putting them in there, but I think, yeah, the Rhode Island Red, because they cope okay in just about any kind of situation. That's why I put them in there. So, but your Leghorns are probably your best pick on that one. Best for cold climates are the Orpington, the Wyandotte, and the Sussex. Those 3 would definitely cope in a snowy, really cold environment. If you are predominantly after white eggs, you want that glossy white egg that's going to look like exactly like the eggs bought in the shop 20 years ago, then definitely Leghorn takes that out. If you are after a fun coloured egg, if you want something a little bit different that people are going to look at and go, oh my God, is that a blue egg? Is it blue on the inside? You can't go past your Easter eggers. Their egg colouring, and because it changes, because it can be so different, we sometimes come in and pack an egg carton and we think, oh, whoever gets that one's going to be in for a shock, because there'll be a dark green khaki coloured one. There'll be a pale, baby blue one. Then there'll be one that's half white and half blue where the toner really is running out. So that's a great one for that. And copper marrons can get a special mention on that because they're chocolate. It's like chocolate coloured eggs. That's what they look like. Best dual purpose. So that's hard because there's a few in there that could be probably, and I didn't put Rhode Island Reds in there, but really Rhode Island Reds are a good one as well. But Plymouth Rocks, Wyandottes and Sussex were my 3 picks for if you want, but you could make an honourable mention of Rhode Island Reds as well, because I think they're definitely up there for that. In most cases, I've never seen a small Rhode Island Red, so definitely get a bit of meat off them. Now, if you are thinking about getting chickens for your backyard, keep your eyes peeled because the book is, I think I'm up to chapter 6 or 7. nearly. So the book for raising chickens for eggs in your backyard will be out hopefully at the end of the month. If you are interested in raising chickens for meat, go to Amazon now, and I'll put a link in the show notes. Go to Amazon now. We are live. You can buy, and it's a little bit tricky. You can buy, well, you can get, if you're on Kindle Unlimited, you can get it for free. If you're not on Kindle Unlimited, you can get it really cheap as an ebook. And I wanted to make it reasonably priced so that the cost of buying it wasn't putting people off being able to do it. But unfortunately, the print books are expensive. Now, I can't print standard colour books in Australia. I don't know what Amazon and Kindle are doing, but I have got the paperback version available in the US, and if you're in Australia, you can buy it from the US Amazon site. Unfortunately, it bumps the price up. I'm just trying to work out now whether I can do the Australian version as a premium colour book and make it a bit cheaper directly from Australia. So hopefully keep an eye out for the next week. I should have that up and running. Now, that being said, if you just want an electronic copy, you can buy an electronic copy if you're not a Kindle Unlimited member. If you're a Kindle Unlimited member, go get on Kindle Unlimited. Read it. If you want to keep it, then go and pay for it. The other thing is, if you do read it, can I ask a massive favour? Please, please, please review it. And the reason that I say that is because when books are reviewed, Kindle bumps them up the search engine and says, here, look at this book, you might be interested. And the best way for books like mine to get out there to other people is to be shown to them in the search engines. So if you do get an opportunity to read it, please review it. And I'm not asking you to put a great review on it. Put an honest review on it. I would much rather an honest review, because if there's something I've missed in there, if there's something that's left out, I would rather know so that the second edition of it, I can fix it up. Anyway, if you're interested in raising chickens for meat, go check out the book on Amazon. Its title is From Brooder to Plate, and the subtitle is the step-by-step guide to raising chickens for meat. Go and have a look at it. As I say, I'll put a link in the show notes anyway. And keep an eye out towards the end of the month for the egg-laying version of that book. And if you aren't a subscriber to the podcast or to my YouTube channel, jump on and subscribe. I never ask this because I always think it just seems very pushy and very salesy, and I don't want to be that person. I would just like to give people as much value as I can, and if they choose to subscribe, well, hello, thanks, nice to have you. But at the end of the day, to get the book out there to more people, whether it be on Kindle Unlimited or an ebook, or if they really want to buy a paperback version of it, the best way for me to do that is to get more seen and more heard. And to do that requires having more subscribers, more people who share it, more people who like it. So if you have an opportunity to do that, I would be forever grateful. All right. I think that's it for me. And look at that. I came in at 40 minutes, which is amazing when the handy helper is not here, gabbering in my ear and making me go off track and on different tangents. That's it for this week. I will talk to you all next week. And I think next week we're either talking coops. I think we're talking coops or nutrition. I can't remember. But I will see you all next week. And we'll talk more about egg-laying chickens. Until then, bye for now. See ya. Thank you so much for listening. From all of us at Mojo Homestead, we really hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, I ask just one small favour. Please subscribe and leave a review. Reviews help small podcasts like mine be more visible, so more people will know about us and be able to listen in. And don't forget to head over www.mojohomestead.net/launch and check out our freebies. We love helping families start their homesteading journey. Remember, life's too short for store-bought eggs.